Guys, it's Sarah and I am here with my May book haul revisit. So I'm going to show you all the books that I hauled in May of 2017. I'm going to tell you where I am as far as whether I've read it, if it's still sitting unread. I will talk about books that I've unhauled as well and kind of what my plans are for them. I'm also going to pick one book out of this stack and I'm going to add it to my TBR for 2018. So by the end of this year, I plan to read at least one book from every haul that I did last year. So, all right, May was pretty good. I didn't haul a ton, so it's a little bit of a smaller one this month, but here's what I hauled last year. The first book that I hauled is Blood Rose Rebellion by Rosalind Eves, and this one is the first book in a series, and I believe the second book is already out now. And I believe this is a fantasy book, a young adult fantasy, but I don't really know too much about it. I've heard some pretty good things about it. Nothing like over the top crazy, but nothing really bad either. So I think I've heard pretty good things about this one. And yeah, I got this from a website called Blogging for Books, which is actually no longer active. I got a notification that they were taking their site in a new direction, so it's not an option anymore, unfortunately, but I did get it to read and review, and then I ended up not getting to it, so I still have it sitting on my shelves, and I'm still really interested. The next one is an ARC that I received from St. Martin's Press and Flatiron Books, and that is The Fact of a Body by Alexandria Marzano-Lesnevich, and this is a book that I have read. We read it for the Deadly Divas book club last year, and I loved this book. This is a nonfiction book, and it follows Alexandria. She is a lawyer. She actually went through a process where she is working on a case that is dealing with an inmate that is on death row. And she is very opposed to the death penalty. She's always been opposed to it. She doesn't like it. She wants to try to minimize it or, get rid of it. And they are reviewing some old cases, to kind of see why these people are on death row and what it means and all this stuff. So she ends up in the middle of a case that happened, quite a long time ago. And it involves a child molester, and this man also killed a child, and that's why he's on death row. And just seeing all the details of this case, which was a real case, it's a real thing. It actually happened. Alexandria actually went through all this. She ended up finding this case really paralleling a lot of things that happened in her childhood as well, which really shaped who she is and, how she feels about all this stuff. And she starts questioning her morals about the death penalty because the more into this case she gets, the more she wants this guy dead. So she's really finding herself struggling with what her beliefs actually are in this whole situation. And it was fantastic. I loved this book so much because it really dove into this case, and it was so fascinating. I enjoyed the case part more than her childhood because it does go back and forth, but the case was so fascinating and made me feel a lot of different emotions that really surprised me about this man who was convicted. But yeah, and I ended up doing a whole bunch of research while I was reading it about this guy and what actually happened, and it was just fascinating. I loved it so much, and I ended up giving it 5 stars. This next book is a book that I received for a review from the publisher as well, and that is The Garden of Small Beginnings by Abby Waxman. And this was a debut novel for her, and I read and reviewed this one and really liked it. I enjoyed this a lot. This is an adult contemporary, and it follows a woman who had recently lost her husband, and she is basically, just trying to move on, and she has 2 young girls, and you kind of see her deal with new situations in a different way because her husband's not there anymore, and how she's kind of, adjusting to everything after that. And she ends up meeting someone who could be a potential new love interest and dealing with that because that's a lot of emotional baggage to handle, when you're mourning your husband, but you're kind of also seeing someone else. And, how do you get over the guilt of that, basically? And this was really good. It was pretty funny. There was some humor in here that I really enjoyed. And yeah, and it has a lot to do with gardening as well. There's a big gardening aspect of it in a few different ways, which was really creative and interesting. And really strong family values in here too, so I really liked it. And then I had a friend of mine who actually sent me a couple of books that are part of a series that I'd started collecting, and that is the Left Behind series. So I have Tribulation Force and Soul Harvest, which is books 2 and 4 in the Left Behind series by Tim LaHaye. And I had been, you know, starting to look around for these. I wanted to get them, you know, used and cheap and all that stuff because I wanted to get the entire series. And I had a friend of mine contact me and say, hey, I have these 2 books, I'm going to send them to you. And I was like, okay. And I did read Tribulation Force. I have read this one. I have not read Soul Harvest yet. This is actually the next one in the series I need to read, so I will probably be getting to that sometime this year for sure. I'm buddy reading these with my friend Kay as well, and we've been really enjoying them so far. And yeah, so read one, the other one is the next one up, so I'll be reading it sometime this year. And in that same box, she also sent a couple of books that are books 1 and 2 in a series that she really enjoyed and she thought I would enjoy them too. And that's books 1 and 2 in the Cape Refuge series. So first one is called Cape Refuge and the second one is called Southern Storm. This is by Terry Blackstock, and she just said that these were really great Christian reads and she really thought that I would enjoy them as well. So I have these. I haven't read them yet though. And then I have a few books that I got at a library sale. So speaking of series, I got 2 books in another series, and this is by Shannon McKenna. This first one is called Behind Closed Doors. The second one is called Standing in the Shadows. And I got these because these are like erotic thrillers or erotic suspense kind of books, and I'm into those for sure. So the peacock feather on this one really spoke to me when I saw it. It was definitely like I picked it up because of the cover and then kind of read about what they were about, and I was like, oh, okay. So I grabbed books 1 and 2 since they were there, and again, haven't read either one yet, but I have them. And another one that I picked up at the library is called Deceptions by Rebecca Frayne. I have no idea what this is about, but I think it's a kid who disappears and they're trying to figure out where he went. So yeah, haven't read it yet. And then I picked up a classic. I picked up The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I have never read this book and I have not seen the movies, so I don't really know what it's about. I know it's set in the 20s in New York, and that's kind of it. And I think it follows a guy named Gatsby, like that's his name, and maybe he's like a tycoon of some sort. I don't really know. But yep, so I picked it up and I was surprised at how short it is, and it looks like it could be something I could get through like pretty quickly, but yeah, I just figured I'd pick it up. All right, and the last one that I picked up at the library sale, oh my gosh, it's heavy. Truman by David McCullough. This is a autobiography about President Harry Truman, and I have been kind of getting into historical biographies because of Alexander Hamilton, so I've picked up a couple since then, and this was $1 and it's ginormous and it was perfect condition, so I figured, you know, it wouldn't hurt to grab it while it was super cheap, and someday I will read this. Now I need to pick what I'm gonna put on my TBR. So I'm trying to decide if I want to go for the tiny classic that I could get through quickly. Do I want to read the first in one of these series to see if it's something I want to continue on with? I'm not sure. Okay, so the one I'm going to add to my 2018 TBR from this list is going to be Behind Closed Doors by Shannon McKenna. That way I can read this one and know whether or not I would want to read this one or maybe continue on with this series. So yeah, but I figured I'd give it a try, see what it's all about, and maybe be able to continue on to the next one if I like it, and then if I don't, I can get rid of this one and know that it's not for me. But yeah, so I'm gonna add this one officially to my TBR for 2018. All right, guys, that is it for my May book haul revisit. Let me know if you guys have read any of these books. Let me know some books that I need to get to, regardless of whether I picked it to be put on my 2018 TBR or not. And I will talk to you guys again soon. Hope you have a great day. Bye.